Hello, welcome inside Fever Insider Live. Brian Haenchen, Choe Peterson here with you. We are recapping an Indiana Fever win, a must-win, Chloe, a game they had to have. They win 95-75 over the Seattle Storm. Honestly, a decent amount happened in a game that was a blowout. I mean, the near injury to Lexi Hall had a nice lump to show for it.
Yes.
Shea Petty, got poked in the eye, looked like.
Allegedly, she came back, so she's fine.
In a season that has been filled with just bad luck at every turn for the Indiana Fever, tonight was a nice little respite for a team despite a couple close calls.
Yeah, it was really lucky for the Fever that, when I saw that head-on-head collision between Gabby Williams and Lexi Hull, I thought one, if not both of them, would come out with a concussion. But luckily for both the Fever and the Storm, neither of them did. So, obviously, if you guys have seen the photo of Lexi or the video that Brian got when he talked to her post-game, pretty good welt on her head. And Gabby Williams, I haven't seen her post-game, but she was holding, an ice pack to her head also. So both of them are probably going to be sporting some welts for a little while, but lucky for them, neither of them got a concussion or anything really serious.
When that went down and just watching the replay, it looked like concussion.
Yeah.
Oh, God, the last one. One of the last players, Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell, the Fever's last hope, honestly. But she does have a very nice size welt to show for it. It was so big that she could see it out of her peripheral vision. So if you haven't seen it yet, I tweeted out the video, and it'll also be on our website here. That's what I wrote about tonight, but just crazy. Big picture, though. I mean, you asked before the game what I thought was going to happen. I did not have good vibes going into it, but then you pointed out correctly that the Fever have just had Seattle's number this year and been able to dispatch them. And tonight, I mean, I think Tony West, East, whichever direction
North,
we want to go
South.
with, he pointed out that the Fever were so dominant tonight that they made it look like Seattle wasn't trying, which is a testament to just, I guess, the desperation they're going to have to play with.
I mean, Seattle did empty their bench with 6 minutes left in the game. So I don't know if that's considered. They were down 20 at that point. But I thought that was interesting that they opted to empty their bench that early. But yeah, it was, for some reason, much like how Los Angeles has Indiana's number for some reason this season, it's the same thing with Indiana over Seattle. Indiana swept this 4-game season series with Seattle with this win, and it was just a wire-to-wire dominant win. Indiana's had some issues with their third quarter play this season, kind of just, melting down a little bit in the third quarter, and it was obviously very evident in their 2 games against Minnesota this past weekend. But, they were about as dominant as you can be just all 4 quarters tonight.
The thing that's interesting, I think, looking ahead now, and even looking back at just how do they get this consistently? It seems like that's kind of been the struggle. And obviously, injuries factor into that, quality of competition factors in that. I'm not looking at the Minnesota game, for instance.
Yeah.
But where was this against Dallas?
Yeah.
Where was this against
Their 3
Washington?
losses to Los Angeles.
Yeah, the 3 losses against Los Angeles. And it's curious because when you see them tonight, even at half strength or whatever strength you want to give them, I mean, they looked like a damn good team.
Yeah.
The defense was clicking. I mean, the defense was fully engaged. Shots were falling. They were getting quality looks. There were a lot of movement on offense. Things weren't sticking. It wasn't stagnant. And it's like we've seen this in spurts all season, even when they were healthy. It's kind of like that consistency has just kind of eluded them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure injuries have something to do with it. Obviously, Caitlin Clark being out since July 16th has really thrown a wrench, I think, in a lot of things with them not having a consistent point guard. Then, Aaron McDonald, Sydney Colson go down on August 7th. And then, you obviously bring Odyssey Sims and you bring Shea Petty in, but they're obviously not, integrated fully in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they may not be integrated fully even through the end of the season, but it's impressive that they were able to do this, but they also should be able to do it against, Los Angeles on Friday or Golden State even on, I think, Sunday is when they play Golden State. Just those teams that are kind of within their stratosphere in terms of the standings. I believe Los Angeles is just out of the playoffs in 9th right now. Golden State went down to 8th with the Fever's win tonight. So those are teams they need to win or they need to beat to kind of keep in where they want to be in the standings at this point.
The person that you wrote about tonight and somebody that we should talk about is Odyssey Sims. And Steph White, I think you were out of town. This is one of the games that I handled, but she talked about needing Odyssey to kind of take ownership of that point guard role.
Yes.
And we saw it there at the end of the game against Connecticut, and we've seen it in the game since, where she is kind of taking that ownership and kind of taking control and providing that position, filling that void that this team desperately needed.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is just taking the time to get comfortable with the offense. Like, she came in, they showed her, 5-6 plays that they run, consistently, and that's kind of what she had to run with in her first game in a Fever uniform. And then, she's had 6 games since then, and I think we've seen every game she's gotten more and more comfortable with being able to make those split-second decisions and being able to decide, who to pass to, when to take the ball, or when to go to the rim herself. And, it was really fun today when, she banked in that 38-foot, 35-foot three-pointer. And I think that just showed how comfortable she's gotten with this team, even in, I think, 16 days since she was signed.
Yeah, she's been a really good pickup. Again, dodged a bullet on the injury front after the last game, but she has been a tremendous addition. On the injury front, another note from tonight, pregame, Chloe Bibby remains day-to-day, but the team is at least hopeful that she's going to be back to practice on Friday or by the end of the week. Not Friday specifically, but by the end of the week. So that's good news. And it's interesting, too, Stephanie White talking about just what it means not having her on the floor, not having her available, and just how that changes things for Aaliyah Boston.
Yeah, I think Steph White has talked pretty consistently about how Aaliyah Boston is the player most affected by all of these injuries, because obviously the pick and roll with Caitlin Clark was a very big part of her game and Caitlin's game. When she got injured, that kind of went away a little bit, and I think we've seen that because Steph White has also mentioned a lot that, they need to get the ball to Aaliyah Boston more often. And she had 27 points tonight, so they did it then, but there have been games, their last home game, which I can't remember. I think against Minnesota. She got like 3 or 4 touches in the first 3 quarters, and then went on like a 6 or 8-0 run herself in the fourth to kind of bring them back into the game. So I think, as Steph White has mentioned, she's been the one who's kind of struggled most with, or not struggled per se, but has been affected most by all of these changes because, her positioning and her position in general as the center relies so much on the point guard throwing into the paint for her touches. And if, you don't have a point guard that's comfortable in the offensive scheme yet, you might not get as many of those passes into or under the basket. 52
points in the paint tonight for the Fever, to 38 for the Storm. That feels like a recipe for success. Yeah. And we didn't get a chance to talk, or haven't had a chance to talk since the Minnesota game on the road. But, I mean, at the beginning of that game, too, same thing, right? Just force feed into Aaliyah Boston inside and let her go to work. And I mean, maybe that's the recipe for success and something that will be sustainable here moving forward. Chloe, any other observations from this game before we maybe start tying a bow on this thing?
I don't think so. Kelsey Mitchell was good, as usual. Kelsey Mitchell set the new franchise record for single-season points, which passed Caitlin Clark's point record last season, which, a fun fact I remember from last season is both Caitlin and Kelsey averaged 19.2 points per game last year. But Caitlin Clark had 3 more total points than Kelsey Mitchell in 2024. I believe Caitlin Clark had 769 points in the 2024 season, and Kelsey Mitchell had 766. So Kelsey's already up to, I think it's 787 now, somewhere in the 780s. But yeah, she's gonna smash that single season record, especially with 4 more games in the season compared to last year. But impressive season for Kelsey Mitchell, I think. An all WNBA type season for her. She's surprisingly never been all WNBA before, but I think this would likely be the year for her to do it.
Again, the Indiana Fever take out the Seattle Storm tonight, 95-75. Chloe and I will be back tomorrow around noon Eastern for our regular live show. We'll go for about an hour there. We'll take everybody's questions, comments. We'll talk about the Caitlin Clark developments that Chloe broke when she was up in Minneapolis, because nothing can ever be calm and quiet, especially on the road, and especially on a Sunday, as we've learned here over the past couple weeks.
I went to Minnesota shoot around fresh off of a flight that I got on at 6:30 in the morning, So love that for my life. Taylor Swift got engaged.
Love that for her life.
Love that for her life. The new episode of Summer I Turned Pretty comes out tomorrow. Everybody watch it. Everybody share your thoughts with me. That is all.
So that's what you have to look forward to tomorrow. Summer I Turned Pretty. We'll probably talk a little bit of Taylor Swift too, because that does have a Caitlin Clark connection, obviously. Yes. So we're going to make it all local. We'll be hitting the biggest topics and also, of course, taking everybody's questions and comments. We thank you all so much for watching 95-75. We're down to 2 more home games. I'm sure we'll do some road games and playoff games here of these shows. But thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll talk to everybody here in about, 12 hours, 13 hours. Oh, my God. Bye.
2 more home games. It's crazy.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.